Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is our wacky and weird episode where we're covering all the wacky and weird stuff like animals, people, and probably also governments making weird decisions as, this is Before Coffee, the father and daughter comprehensive news Planet Earth podcast where we look up our stories 10 to 15 minutes before we start, and we've just rolled out of bed. We're waking up with you, reading our stories drowsily without any caffeine or anything to make us think straight. So let's get into our headlines.
Try not to flash the camera.
Yeah, we'll try not to, have too much cleavage. Today on Before Coffee, Runaway Kangaroo on the loose named Sheila shuts down Alabama interstate. Spent $6,000 to look like a cat for publicity.
Hello, this is Roger from the United States, where a boat flips in a 200-mile-an-hour boat race, but still wins the race. And despite a slew of broken car mirrors, Massachusetts residents take woodpecker invasion in stride.
Man airlifted from Japan's Mount Fuji is rescued again days later.
Also, one man's quest to make pickleball quiet.
Coming out of culture news, chipmunks were obsessed with my mics. The man who recorded a tree for a year.
And it's the last day of April already. That's right, April's already over. It's National Adopt a Shelter Pet Day, which is April 30th, 2025 on Before Coffee.
I don't really want to know if we're a quarter of the way through the year or a third or 16%.
Or a third.
No, time keeps moving forward. Stop time.
Time doesn't actually exist, right? So, as physicists will tell you, time actually moves slower as you get into space. So, if you want to go into space, time will stop eventually, as they say.
I'll slow down completely.
You have to be tied to some body, some gigantic orbiting thing for your body to accumulate age and the ruins of sunlight or whatnot.
Well, that's true. Gravity
for
just causes friction on our bones, and our joints, and that's why it gets harder to move. For example, 30 years into being alive.
And gravity's constantly pulling us down, right? Don't forget that.
Damn gravity pulling us down, and time moving too fast. Can't get pleased.
All right. Well, anyway, we're done with April. April showers bring May flowers.
Yep, time. Even though the flowers are already here, at least where I live, they're already been here. But...
You know that joke, April flowers bring May flowers, right? What do May flowers bring?
Mosquitoes? I don't know.
Pilgrims.
Oh, I get it.
All right,
okay.
Anyway.
Well, I've already rolled the segue. We're doing alliteration headline. Let's get started with our first two stories.
Right.
The first one coming out of Alabama. From Tuskegee.
You said alliteration headline?
Yes, I did. Tuskegee,
okay.
Alabama, on AP News. The runaway kangaroo named Sheila shut down a stretch of interstate in Alabama yesterday on Tuesday, which was the 29th of April, before state troopers and the animal's owners wrangled the wayward marsupial. The Alabama Law Enforcement Agency said that kangaroo was spotted yesterday hopping along the side of the Interstate 85 in Macon County, which is between Montgomery and Auburn. The site snarled traffic, and state troopers shut down both sides of the interstate for safety of the motorists. Yeah, because that kangaroo was going to punch out your headlights if you got anywhere near it. The animal's owners and troopers were able to capture it, Captain Jeremy J. Burkett of Alabama Law Enforcement Agency said. When somebody said there was a kangaroo, of course I didn't believe it. And nobody believed it, but I'm looking at him, Macon County Sheriff Andre Brunson said on Facebook Live video as the animal was captured. The owner used a dart to tranquilize the animal. Brunson's video showed the drugged kangaroo being carried to a vehicle to be returned to its home. The animal was captured on the side of the interstate between Tuskegee and Auburn, the sheriff said. We see a little bit of everything here, the sheriff said. The animal's owner, Patrick Starr. There's no way that's his real name. Patrick Starr from SpongeBob and SquarePants. Hello? Told the Associated Press that the animal's name is Sheila and that she escaped from her enclosure. Patrick Star just running around in Alabama with a kangaroo. She's back home safe. She's up. Well, maybe I should do it in Patrick's voice. She's back home safe. She's up. I don't do a good Patrick Star impression. She's not sedated anymore. She's eating. She's drinking. She's not injured, Star said. The kangaroo was treated by the Auburn University College of Veterinary Medicine, he said. The family runs a pumpkin patch and petting zoo, but Sheila is just a personal pet, Star said. She's a sweet pea. She's a sweet pea. I'm glad she's back home. I'm glad everybody slowed down a little bit, he said. Austin Price, who took video of the animal hopping down the interstate, said he had briefly questioned if he was seeing things. I've heard my grandmother yell, "Is that a kangaroo?" Price said he assumed it was probably a deer until he looked. And yeah, it's a kangaroo. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my southern accent for that story, because I enjoy doing it every time. It's very rarely that I can pull out the southern accent. Usually it's the British one. All these British people doing stuff. Got an alliteration headline for that?
I was trying to make it longer, but I ended up with marsupial mesmerizes motorists. It was going to be marsupial molests, but merely mesmerizes motorists. But
that's pretty long.
I couldn't find another word to put in there.
It's pretty good. In our next story, spending £6,000 to look like a cat. This is on the Inquisitor. In a now viral TikTok post, Jolene Dawson admitted that she regrets spending £6,000 or 12,000 Australian dollars. That's a very specific. It's probably something like 5,000 USD or 5,890 or something. I don't know what the current rates are. On plastic surgery in an endeavor to look like a cat. The TikToker had previously drawn a lot of attention for spending such a huge sum of money on fillers and experimental thread procedures to look like a feline. So I'm guessing her eyes, right? They're trying to sew her eyes in a certain way. She also said that the whole thing was a publicity stunt, which is now causing her a lot of trouble. She was told, "What's the jam? This was always intended to be a publicity stunt, and I stuck with reversible options because I knew I wouldn't want to look like a cat forever." She further added, "However, I could have never predicted my body's reaction to these treatments and the way it has changed the composition of my lower face." She also said that the pain those experimental threads had caused her made her try to remove them on her own, which further made the whole thing more painful. Her body also rejected the fillers, and all that followed has very likely damaged her internally. There are also lesions on her face, which Dawson thought were pimples. However, when she tried to burst them, no pus came out, and rather it was fillers that were filled in those lesions. In the same TikTok where she admitted to regretting the decision to get the surgery done, she also said, "I originally spent 12,000, I guess she's Australian dollars, or 6,000 pounds, on cosmetic procedures to look like a cat, and now I'm losing my voice. I'm in agony, and I regret it so much." Popular TikToker then added, "I'll be honest with you, I don't want to admit this, but I was just doing this for attention. I never wanted to be a cat. I never identified as a cat. I know better than to do this, because I didn't want it to be permanent. I'm very lucky that this is all that is happening. I didn't use silicone or anything like that. I didn't go under the knife, as the so to say. I may have at some point, if this was profitable enough for me." She also mentioned that since doing things like this had worked out in the past, she got the confidence of doing it again, thinking it would be beneficial for her. She said, "In the past, I've done things like this for attention and it's been successful, but I haven't augmented my body to such an extreme, and I think that's the mistake I've made." Well, at least she's brave enough to admit it, because there's a lot of people out there, both men and women, who do things for attention, and I'm gonna double down. Yeah, I totally meant for this to happen. I'm gonna sue somebody because it didn't go my way. Her idea that she could push her body a little further resulted in a disastrous result. Besides having visible issues, she is also suffering from acid reflux, which is making her lose her voice. Talking about this, Dawson said, "What I think has happened is that the filler may have migrated into either my nasal cavity or my sinus cavity, and now running down back my throat, causing acid reflux and loss of voice. She also mentioned that while she is worried about her health, she also thinks that she will be fine. She took full responsibility for her actions, emphasizing that no one had forced her to do this, and it was all her decision. Now, as she is hoping to remove all her fillers properly, she can go back to her normal state. She advised all plastic surgery enthusiasts to be careful and not to do them for the wrong reasons. So this originally was a weird and wacky story, but it ended up being like, I guess, an inspirational story about taking accountability for your mistakes, learning from them, and warning people not to do them themselves. But there is your story of Jolene Donson, who tried to become a cat for attention. And well, I think she still got the attention. Mm-hmm. So in a way, she got her cake and ate it too. Well, except for the part where her body is not doing so well. But she never really wanted to look like a cat permanently, so it's going away over time.
Yeah, right.
Well, we're talking about her, so I guess she won.
That's right. It's right for puns, that's for sure. There's lots of puns.
Yeah. So that's my story.
Okay, my headline is Person Personalized Peculiar Pussycat Procedure. I'm sorry, person performed peculiar pussycat procedure.
Yeah.
There you go.
Pretty good.
Couldn't read. All right.
Roll the next segue here. It's mixed metaphor time. My favorite one.
All right. This should be easy to get a metaphor from speedboats. All right. This is from AP News. Speedboat that flipped midair in 200 miles per hour crash wins the race in Arizona Lake. Yeah, that's weird. A speedboat went airborne. This is from Lake Havasu City, Arizona, from Associated Press. A speedboat went airborne and did a complete backward flip by racing at about 200 miles per hour before crashing into an Arizona lake. Two racers inside the boat's covered cabin survived the event, which saw the boat go over 30 feet in the air, or 9 meters. They wore harnesses and helmets and were just a little banged up, according to the social media post on Facebook by the Freedom One racing team and an account by the race witnesses. The Saturday crash took place in a 3/4 mile course at an annual speedboat race. The flying boat still managed to cross the finish line and win the contest by registering a top speed of 200 miles per hour, Speedboat magazine publisher Ray Lee said. Lee said the twin-hull skater boat is designed to rise up and hydroplane across the surface of the water. Wind conditions and propeller adjustments called trims likely contributed to the boat taking flight, he said. Lee said it's an inherently dangerous sport, though courses have been shortened from a previous length of 1 mile, or 1.6 kilometers. 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers? I didn't know that. Anyway, that produced speeds in excess of 240 miles per hour. Safety precautions include reinforced cockpits with underwater diving gear. Freedom One Racing released a video saying its boat operators got out safely and that the vessel is now back on the trailer. The video showed extensive damage to the boat, including splintered fiberglass. Representatives of Freedom One Racing did not immediately respond to email and phone messages. The team emphasized fundraising for charity. Steve Tricknor, president of the company that runs the event, said the boat was participating in a contest to see which vessel could race the course the fastest. He said the drivers were on hand and responded to the crash within 20 seconds. He said divers are on hand and responded to the crash within 20 seconds. He described drivers are on hand. He described the relief of seeing both people on board the boat pop up on the hatch. Oh my gosh, it's just a miracle! And they won the race. So there you go. If you have a mixed metaphor to that, other than that, I'll move on to the next story.
I think he threw his monkeys in the spanner.
Okay. Is it like a dingo ate my baby? I don't know. Anyway.
Well, there was a crash, right? So
right on.
There's some monkeys driving.
Yeah. Monkeys driving. Okay, another story. This is another weird story. This is from Massachusetts, also on AP News. Holly Raymer and Roderick Nagawi. Despite a slew of broken car mirrors, Massachusetts residents take woodpecker invasion in stride. This is Rockport, Massachusetts. Rockport residents have a history of fighting off invaders, but not this time. During the War of 1812, townsfolk in the tiny fishing village hurled rocks at British shoulders. They might have hit him in his shoulder. The rocks at British soldiers using their stockings as slings. Now they're slinging trash bags and towels over the side mirrors of their cars to protect them from destructive and determined pileated woodpecker. Over the last few weeks, the bird has broken more than 24 mirrors, at least one vehicle's side window, but residents are taking the violence in stride. Everyone's having a good laugh about it, said Ben Favaloro. Nobody wants to harm the bird. He's always welcome back. Favaloro has lived in the neighborhood for nearly 4 decades, said he's seen the occasional woodpecker in the side of houses in years past, and he removed several trees last summer that were damaged beyond recovery. But the attacking of glass is a new phenomenon. Initially, we just noticed that all the mirrors had been adjusted. It looked like maybe there's a child in the neighborhood that was going around pushing the mirrors down, he said. But then his sister-in-law spotted the roughly 21-inch, or 53 centimeter, tall woodpecker on the Favaloro's truck pecking at the side mirror. Given their enormous size, pileated woodpeckers are plenty strong enough to break mirrors, but such behavior is definitely weird, said Pamela Hunt, senior biologist for avian conservation in New Hampshire Audubon. Lots of birds will be aggressive against reflections in mirrors, but I don't usually hear about woodpeckers, she said. They don't usually peck at their opponents. They kind of chase them around. She said the woodpeckers might be a little stupid. Yeah, just a little stupid. Might be a little stupid as trying to defend its territory and scare away what seems to be competition. The damage coincides with the mating season for pileated woodpeckers, and resident Barbara Smith says she'd be fine with lots of little woodpeckers around, although she hopes they won't be as destructive. Woodpeckers have to do what woodpeckers do, she said. Good luck, woodpecker. Favaloro, which they spelled his name different in this sentence, they left out a extra O. It says Favaloro. And the previous sentence is Favaloro. Anyway, Favaloro said the woodpecker and the media attention it has attracted has been fun distraction from everything else going on in the world. This is a small town of Rockport that I live in. Is one of the safest communities around. I think it's probably one of the biggest crimes in years. It's kind of funny, but it's nice as well. So there's your weird woodpecker story. Should be easy to come with a metaphor for that.
They let the woodpecker out of the bag, and now it's running wild.
You invented a metaphor. Bags of
all the
woodpecker
woodpeckers out of the bag. Okay,
right.
Let's roll our next takeaway here.
Bags of woodpecker are probably as common as bags of cats, so appropriate.
It is woodpecker season. They're out there. For my next story, you have to give me a non sequitur as we talk about being airlifted from Mount Fuji, not once, but twice. This is by Mari Yamaguchi on AP News. Coming out of Tokyo, a climber airlifted with altitude sickness from near the peak of Japan's Mount Fuji last week returned to the slope and was rescued for a second time just 4 days later, authorities said on Monday, which was the 28th of April. Officials urged people to be aware of the harsh conditions at the country's tallest peak during its off-season. The climber was identified only as a 27-year-old Chinese student living in Japan. He made an emergency call on April 22nd and was airlifted after development symptoms of altitude sickness, police said, adding that his climbing irons were also damaged. On Saturday, maybe this was this last Monday? No, this is just what they said on Monday. Okay, April 22nd. So on Saturday, that was the 26th. So he first went on April 22nd, then he went on April 26th. He returned to the Fuji no Miya Trail about 3,000 meters or nearly 10,000 feet above sea level to look for his cell phone and other belongings that he left behind. Shizuoka Prefectural Police said the climber found him there and able to move after he apparently developed altitude sickness for a second time, police said. Why didn't they just ask the police to get his stuff? Or, hey, I left my stuff. Can you get it for me? The mountain's hiking trails are officially open only from July to early September. but there is no penalty for hiking off-season. There also is no charge or penalty when a climber needs to be rescued. But the Chinese student's case prompted an uproar on social media and generated calls for him to be charged, or at least his second rescue. The Shizuoka police urged all climbers to use caution, noting that the mountain has low temperatures and is covered in snow even in the spring. The 3,776 meter high, or 12,388 foot high mountain was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2013. That's way too, I thought for years it's been a heritage site. 2013?
Yeah.
I just graduated high school. Wow. What the hell? This whole time I thought it was an important symbol to Japan. Well, I guess it is still an important symbol to Japan, but not for UNESCO. The mountain, called Fuji-san, used to be a place of pilgrimage and is increasingly popular among hikers today. To control overcrowding and risk from rushed overnight climbing through rocky slopes and to see the sunrise, local authorities last year introduced an entry fee and a cap on the number of entrants on the most popular trail, and will introduce similar rules on the main trails this year. Hey, might as well make money off the people who want to climb the mountain, I say, because Japan is having a huge tourism problem. Just too many tourists. That what they need is workers and people to stay there because their economy is going to collapse, not tourists. Tourists do give a lot of money, but only during the summer months or the spring. And then what are they doing during the winter? They have nobody working anywhere. You also need people working at those tourist spots for the tourists. So, whether or not they want to acclimate immigrants is their own problem, but they definitely need to start doing that because their population isn't gaining fast enough, so they're gonna have to look towards immigration. But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is, if you're gonna collapse on Mount Fuji, maybe just ask. Japanese people are really nice. They don't steal stuff usually, stereotypically. If you lost your phone up there, just say, hey, I lost my phone up there on the mountain. Can maybe a police officer go up there and get it for me? I would like it back. No, actually, I'm going to go back up on the mountain that I collapsed on. And maybe I was just sick that day on Tuesday. Maybe on Saturday, I feel better enough to get up. Nope. Altitude sickness again.
But it's a phone.
Yeah,
man.
Sad. But there's my story.
Non sequitur, I lost my phone twice in Oregon and found it both times.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. The first time I just remembered where it was.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, both times I remember where it was, but the second time I actually ran it over with my car, so that wasn't so great.
You remembered where it was after you were like, oh, where's my phone? Oh, it's under my wheel.
Where's my phone? Oh, shit, I dropped it and ran it over, didn't I? And went right back to where
Not
it was.
again. Wait a minute. Why is this happening multiple times?
Because I was busy talking to the cops because it was during a traffic accident thing. Anyway, there's your non sequitur.
Hey, Amlin, welcome. Good morning.
On to regular stories. And we're going to go on to the pickleball courts, which I was trying to find a video.
Yeah.
I did find one that's maybe I'll pick a better one.
Let me roll this segue here.
All right.
Reminds me of a song.
All right. This is from getpocket.com. The author is Mark Dent. Mark Dent. Remember when you accidentally run into somebody's car and they aren't there? Well, Mark Dent. Draw a circle around it. Anyway, that's this guy's name, Mark Dent. Anyway, that's my terrible pun joke. One man's quest to make pickleball quiet, says Mark Dent. A new sound of summer in America is a collision of plastic ball and fiberglass covered paddle repeated hundreds of times an hour at city parks, country clubs, and retirement communities. Pwok. For pickleball players, pwok is glorious. It is the sound of a solid hit, an auditory cue that means you're having fun, competing, and maybe even getting revenge on that pompous high school PE teacher who once tormented your class with his crafty pickleball skills. Although the last part might just be me. Pickleball didn't exist when I was in school, so I don't even know when it was invented. Once a niche sport for retirees and oddball PE teachers, pickleball has exploded over the last decade. Last year, 8.9 Americans played pickleball regularly, although 27 million played at least once, making the sport nearly as popular as running. guarantee you more people run than play pickleball. And running isn't a sport. It's actually something you do when you're trying to get away from something. Anyway, so when I'm trying to get away from something, I don't get up my pickleball paddle unless it's very handy and I can hit them with it. But anyway, saying something's nearly as popular as running. Nearly as popular in running is absurd. It's an absurd statement. This writer ought to be ashamed of himself. But anyway, many people living near pickleball courts, however, have a knock with the puck. Nice poetry, dude. North Berkeley, California apartment dwellers have moved out over the game's unrelenting noise. A suburban Kansas City couple filed a lawsuit against the adjacent country club, alleging that the repetitive nuisance of pickleball woke them up at 6 a.m. Yeah, take that shit inside. That's why they have racquetball courts. Anyway. In New Jersey, a blogger described the community's decision to close noisy pickleball courts as a declaration of war. It's touched the nerve literally around America, said Robert Delcarmi, a New Hampshire attorney who has advised homeowner associations and condo groups on pickleball. It's becoming more and more of an issue. In this maelstrom of neighborhood squabbles, lawsuits, and court closures, objective data and advice have been hard to come by. Hardly anyone has considered how to make the game quieter. Enter Bob Unitich, a retired engineer and Carnegie Mellon University professor and founder of Pickleball Sound Mitigation LLC. He's become a go-to source for information in the pickleball wars, studying everything from paddles to the placement of courts. If America starts hearing fainter quack sounds, it might just be because the sport started listening to Unitich. Unitich, who is 77, got into pickleball in 2013 after buying a retirement condo with his wife in Bonita Bay, Florida. They believed they'd been spending their retirement on the water, but every time Unitich went to the marina, neighbors asked if he wanted to play pickleball. He quickly became an avid player, a certified referee for national events, and somebody obsessed with the details of the puck sound. Pickleball, it turns out, is an unusually loud sport. When the hard surface of the pickleball racket connects with the hard surface of the ball, sound waves vibrate rapidly, registering a decibel level of 70 dBA at 100 feet from the court. Tennis is closer to 40, so doesn't mean it's double. dBA doesn't work necessarily like you think it does, but yeah, it's quite a bit louder than tennis. Although a solid hit reaches 70 dBA, the average noise throughout a typical pickleball match is around 59 dBA, which is a decibel reference. The average noise level throughout a pickleball match is around 50 dBA, according to a research paper authored by Unitich. The number of increases when multiple courts are packed next to each other, as is often the case. It is always the case. Pickleball courts are just tennis courts. Let's not call them, anything else. I mean, they just take a tennis court and shorten it. Anyway, pickleball also has a high pitch with a frequency of 1.2 kHz, which is awful. That's an awful frequency you have to listen to. It's roughly the same as the beeping noise from a garbage truck backing up. Yeah, they say it's like, no, man. The most annoying of all frequencies, Unitich said. It catches your attention. So, how loud is a pickleball? It's, we have a chart here. There's a jet engine, a subway, a vacuum cleaner, a city, a suburb, and a whisper. Those are your things that are charted. And the pickleball is right between a vacuum cleaner and the city. It's just slightly less annoying than a vacuum cleaner, although probably this frequency is more annoying. The sound of pickleball grew incessant at Bonita Bay as the number of regular players increased from a handful of more than 300 to more than 300. An acoustics firm installed heavy vinyl over the chain link fence surrounding the courts, but that merely reflected the sounds. Yeah, you have to... Okay. Do you know heavy vinyl does not absorb sound? Sound can be absorbed, folks. Frequencies don't just have to bounce off the walls. If you put padding on the walls, they will just be absorbed into the padding. It's amazing how that works, Anyway, people are morons when it comes to acoustics, apparently. Chain link fence. Yeah. Anyway, put padded fences. Padded. You ever been in a recording studio? There's pads all over the wall. Anyway,
Unitich,
No shit. So Unitich helped research for a solution by adding absorbent fiberglass material. Other Florida communities followed the Bonita Bay model, and pickleballers started calling him for advice. Sensing the demand, he founded Pickleball Sound Mitigation. Man, I love it when people come up with an idea to solve a problem and can get rich on it. Sensing the demand, he founded Pickleball Sound Mitigation LLC in 2021, bringing retired accountant acoustical engineers Barry Wireman and Dale Van Scoik, who were retired and were like, I can make money even though I'm retired. Cool. Let me invest. The company has since consulted for more than 100 clients, usually local municipalities, homeowner association, neighborhood groups, for testing noise, charging $1,000 to $2,000 for sound reports on existing or proposed pickleball courts. That's what I'm talking about. Sound reports. That seems like a racket I can get into. On Unitich's Facebook group, more than 1K members, from pickleball equipment manufacturers to irate residents describing pickleball as making our lives hell, discussed noise issues, pickleball lawsuits, and potential solutions. Unitich and Wireman released 3 papers on pickleball that introduce potential noise standards for the sport. There are several acoustic firms that prepare sound reports for pickleball courts in the U.S., but Lance Willis, whose firm Spendarian and Willis has consulted on pickleball since 2010, said Unitich's company is the only one he knows that's focused solely on pickleball. According to Van Scoik, Unitich is uniquely situated to raise awareness given the research he's doing and connections to the sport's governing body, USA Pickleball. During pickleball's growth spurt, USA Pickleball has done little to address noise concerns. Lately, however, the group is engaged with Unitich, seeking his expertise and asking him to speak in the sport's official ambassadors about ideal noise limits and how courts can adhere to them. In the last year or so, said Van Scoik, an ambassador based in Wisconsin, Unitich has kicked it up another notch in terms of following the sound of silence, and using the sound of science, not the sound of silence, which is what I said, and using that to help expand the sport. When Unitich had discussions with the USA Pickleball clients, he gives a primary piece of advice. Do whatever you can to ensure that the average sound emanating from the court to the nearest homes is 50 dBA or less. Based on his studies and experience, residents of suburban areas generally don't complain about the noise level, which is a few decibels above suburban background noise. In noisier city environments, Unitich has proposed a maximum noise limit of 3 dBA above the background sound. Getting down to 50 dBA can be easy with planning. Data from one of Unitich's papers estimates that even in a wide open space, the sound of a pickleball will likely be tolerable to people living in a distance of 977 feet or farther from the court, and anecdotally, he's rarely heard complaints from people living more than 500 feet away. Out of 10,000 courts in the U.S., Unitich estimates that several hundred are close enough to residential areas to cause noise issues. The problem could become larger if cities and communities that want pickleball continue to convert old tennis courts near homes to save money and space. The towns are often doing this without any regard to sound because they haven't thought about it, Unitich said. Sound barriers like the one in Bonita Bay can knock off 10 to 15 dBA, but they can cost $50K or more, meaning that it's often cheaper in the long run to construct a pickleball court from scratch rather than use old tennis court if it's near any homes. But keeping future costs at a distance future courts at a distance has become tougher as sport expands out of country clubs and retirement communities and into municipal parks and residential streets, where Wireman has seen people setting up makeshift courts in driveways and cul-de-sacs. Driveways. Okay, you'd be hitting balls into your neighbor's yard? I don't get it. Oh, that ball hit and broke my neighbor's driveways. I mean, how do you keep the ball from just flying in everybody's yard? I don't understand these people. Anyway, sound barriers in those situations are either impractical or cost prohibitive. No shit. No. Yeah, impractical. You keep knocking your ball in a neighbor's yard. For pickleball to be welcome, or at least tolerable, in addition to a neighborhood, the equipment must have to be quieter too. Just build them like racquetball courts inside. Hello, racquetball didn't have any problems, did it? Go inside, like highlight or racquetball or handball or whatever.
Yeah, I thought people were playing them on tennis courts to begin with, so I don't understand why people are just like, Yeah, going on the driveway.
Tennis courts are outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, tennis courts are outside. That's why you have noise issues. On a late May afternoon, Unitek is winding down at his lab. 2 cluttered storage rooms in a retrofitted office building in South Hills outside Pittsburgh. In the lab's echoless sound chamber, he tests pickleball equipment, dropping balls into a tube and down to a paddle 12 feet below and measuring the sound levels. For a game that has become phenomenon in part because of its simplicity, there is an astonishing variety of pickleball paddles and balls in the market. USA Pickleball has approved more than 1.9K paddles and 114 balls, according to its own data. The approval process is contingent on characteristics like weight for balls and surface roughness and size for paddles. The words sound, decibels, and noise don't even appear in USA Pickleball's equipment standards manual, but Unitek has studied those noise levels for dozens of paddles and balls. He found that using softer paddles can drop 1 to 3 dBA from the average sound of a pickleball match, and he thinks that one day someone may invent a quieter ball that approximates the same bounce as plastic. Foam balls, which are available, drastically change the feel of the game. Yeah, I guess. A foam ball is not going to fly as far or go as fast. Let's not be stupid. Nobody wants to play little kiddie sports. They want a little bit of danger, right? He also found that thicker paddles with softer faces can be up to 7 dB quieter than typical models, and put together a list of recommending more than a dozen paddles with frequencies lower than 1 kHz. Higher level players tend to prefer softer face, thicker paddles, which are better for spin according to Unitek, but average pickleballers tend to buy the cheap models that also happen to be the loudest, of course. On top of that, he said the paddle manufacturers focus most on power and control, neither of which brings sound levels down. To incentivize the production of quieter equipment, Unitek has held discussions with USA Pickleball about paddles. It is hopeful the organization will approve a family of paddles for recreational players featuring standards for noise levels and pitch. Unitek recognized that noise is unlikely to put too much of a damper on pickleball's U.S. growth, but what will happen if the sport's popularity continues to grow around the world? He's already had one client in Amsterdam and got to thinking about all the destiny and open windows in summertime in Europe and Asian cities. Oh, yeah, because there's a lot of countries that just don't have a lot of air conditioning, right? So you got to open your window.
No air conditioning here. It doesn't get warm enough.
Fuck. Close that fucking window.
Though, to be fair, we have a tennis court here in my village and a skate park right next to it. So the people across the street from that are like, oh, it's loud. And it's like, you know, we warned you for 2 years we're building a skate park here. You had those 2 years to say, can you not build a skate park? I want to have a quiet life. And you didn't say shit, so now you can't complain, okay?
Not a skate park. That's still quieter than a pickleball court. Okay, no, there's my story.
Right next to the tennis, that's all I'm saying. It's also right next to the tennis, so.
Yeah, tennis isn't as loud.
And that's been there for 75 years. The tennis court has been there, so.
Yeah, but I'm just saying if tennis was a problem, people would have been complaining about it for years, right?
That's your story?
Tennis is loud, but yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry for the length.
No, it's fine.
I didn't realize it was that.
The only song I could really get reminded of there was "It's the Eye of the Tiger," because that's probably what these people playing pickleball feel like, you know, that they're doing something really impressive, you know? Yeah, back in my sports, and it's like you're playing really easy tennis, and hey, if you enjoy it, that's fine, but it is just really easy, nice on the joints, you know, keeping yourself active.
Yeah, right.
That's good. That's always good.
I made the semifinals of the St. Aloysius Retirement Home Pickleball. Play the Eye of the Tiger song. Anyway.
It's the Eye of the Tiger. You gotta write me a haiku for our culture segment here. I've activated Grandpa's karaoke machine.
I'm sorry. What do I gotta do?
You have to make a haiku about chipmunks and recording a tree for our culture segment.
All
here.
right.
This is by Claire Biddles. I love that name, Claire Biddles on The Guardian. What does a landscape sound like when it's not being listened to? This philosophical question was a catalyst for filmmaker and artist Joshua Bonetta, who has distilled a year of recordings from a single tree in upstate New York. That's 8,760 hours into a 4-hour album, The Pines. As Robert McLaren writes in his accompanying essay, the Pines is a reminder of the natural world's sheer miraculous busyness, its froth of signals and noise, and it is rich with poetic meaning and resonant amid the climate emergency. It started as a personal thing, Bonetta explains from his studio in Munich, where he relocated from the US in 2022. Relatable! For over 20 years, he has made sonic records of places as private mementos, but recent experiments with long-form field recording led him to push himself to document this place in the deepest way I could. On a residency in the Outer Hebrides between 2017 and 2019, Bonetta made the sound installation Brackish, a month-long continuous radio broadcast from a weather-resistant hydrophone and underwater mic via lock. So listening to the brackish water. I started to leave the recording for a day or two, and then it got longer, he says. Amazing things happen when you're not there to interfere. This allows you a different, very privileged window into the space. Back in Ithaca, New York, sometimes I'd be in the woods at night with friends and we would hear owls or coyotes, but it would be rare and fleeting, he says. He decided to use his Hebrides technique to document nearby Tioga County and strapped a recording device 10 feet up a pine tree. He returned every few weeks to replace batteries and storage cards, and sometimes the fluffy mic covers that chipmunks got obsessed with on his otherwise hardy equipment. Bonetta recorded his 8,760 hours of audio from May 2021 to April 2022, before he moved to Munich, it looks like. He approached the intimidating editing task with the help of Holger Klink. There is a guy named Holger Klink who is editing audio from a tree. Wow, you can't write this stuff, man. You can't write this. This is real life. An expert in conservation bioacoustics at Cornell University, who showed him how to identify sounds graphically with spectral analysis software. Yeah, I'm sure he knows all about the clinking sounds and graphical spectral analysis. I'm in awe of scientists, says Bonetta, who frequently collaborates with them. Then his friend Josh Berger, a re-recording mixer who has worked with Oliver Stone and Steven Soderbergh, introduced him to a program he described as Photoshop for sound. He uses it to clean up sound, but it can also be used to dismantle and put it back together. Editing process took 3 years. I mean, it was a year worth of tree sounds between other jobs. I would come home after work like, okay, I'm going to work on the tree, he says. Bonetta describes the Pines as a spectral collage. Its 4 hours are not edited highlights, but layered constructions, like a poetic version of a scientific chart. When I pieced sounds together, I would multi-track, explains. So maybe you're listening to a rain falling, but that's all the rain in July. The result gives an impressionistic idea of the life cycles of crickets and frogs as their sounds enter and exit, but also offers up the changing sound of the trees themselves, as branches creak under snowfall and crack with growth. You can almost hear leaves fill in on the deciduous trees, he says, linking his palpable sense of wonder back to an early memory of a school friend sharing what they claimed was a recording of wolves. That's what it reminded me of when I worked on it, listening in the dark, anticipating what's going to come next. As with any recording of the natural world, The Pines comes with an undercurrent of mourning. It is explicitly about the climate crisis, but Bonetta admits that his practice is colored by its threats. You could always be recording something that you might not be able to record again, he says, recalling audio he made in Ontario neighborhood. A huge highway was about to be built through it, which would change the acoustic ecology drastically because the natural soundscape moved. Next, Bonetta is documenting the inner geological sounds of Alps. One mountain has a little earthquake every time there's a heavy rainfall, he says, at Mount Hochstaufen, where scientists are investigating a phenomenon that has been occurring for centuries. There will also be an audiovisual portrait of the Bavarian forest at night, a film documenting the work of bioacoustic scientists at Rapa Nui, Easter Island, and his fascination with the sound of Munich, his new city. I've never lived in a Europe before, where you can hear bells from all different neighborhoods and the sense of distance. That is true. When I first moved to the Netherlands, even though I only live in a village, every village has a church, and every church is going to go off every hour and half hour. And first when I moved here, it was something to get used to. Oh, there's the church bell again. oh, there's a church bell again, but now it's just background noise to me. And also a great timekeeper. Oh man, it's 4 p.m. already? Who needs to look at my phone when you've got the local church clock? So I think it's a few minutes behind, but...
That's why they exist in the first place.
Yeah.
People set their watches.
I mean, of course, the reason why every village, every little town has a church bell is because that's what farmers would use to keep time. Oh, is that 6 chimes? I have to go get dinner, you know? And otherwise they'd be out there all day. Or whatever the farmers are doing out there.
After the invention of the watch, they were wind watches. And so they would stop and you're like, damn, I don't know what time it is. And then the church bell would ring, oh, it's 6. And then you set your watch and wind it again. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's really beautiful to have that sense of space through local sounds. There's a generosity in Bonetta's work. It offers of the time to spend with the landscape, which gets infused with personal meaning. But heed his warning before listening to the pines. Just don't fall asleep, he says, because there's some really gnarly raccoon in there. Yeah, I definitely would. If I played this right now, I'd definitely fall asleep and then wake up to like... whatever. And I'm like, what's happening? I think on Tuesday I fell asleep listening to the behind-the-scene footage from The Lord of the Rings. And I think they did a scene about a battle, so I woke up to like a bunch of orcs yelling and screaming, and not a great thing to wake up to when you're in the middle of sleep. Ching, 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 rah, dur, 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 dur. All right, this is a little too dramatic. I'm trying to sleep peacefully over here.
Yeah, using half your brain and the other half is panicking.
Give me my haiku about pines. Are you there?
Haiku!
Oh.
It says, here's my haiku. Record trees. They talk. Really? They hold discussions. And gnarly raccoons. Anyway.
And early raccoon.
Gnarly raccoons.
Gnarly raccoons, sorry, yeah.
Alright. I also recorded the gnarly raccoons. There's your haiku.
Alright. It's time for accurate
I sent you a video.
Accurate metaphor or simile, and you sent me a video. Great.
Yes. And then we'll do this day in history and then wrap it up. It is April 30th. In 1897, English physicist... Did you spin the wheel? Sorry.
Yeah, I spin it. Accurate simile and metaphor.
Oh, okay. 1897, English physicist J.J. Thomson, announced that he had discovered the electron, which helped revolutionize the knowledge of atomic structure. He was later awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics. And we've been using electrons ever since.
Before that, we were using only, what was it called? The protons. Only protons.
Right. Again, electrons are only a theory. Again, we're just going to approach that with caution and say, maybe 100 years ago, we discovered that the electron really isn't a thing, in 100 years. It's just something else that we just decided to call it. But here's how it actually works. But then again, science is always changing. 1900, American railroad engineer Casey Jones, later made famous song, died in a train wreck. We could play the Grateful Dead song, Casey Jones. That would have been a good mic drop, but I didn't think of it. He was not driving that train high on cocaine, like the song says. I don't think. Well, he might have been. Cocaine. We did this last year, I think. There was actually cocaine and coke, so he could have been high on cocaine. Anyway. 1900, U.S. President William McKinley signed the Hawaiian Organic Act, which made Hawaii a territory of the United States. That's all you need is a piece of paper. And there you go. 1926, aviator Bessie Coleman, the first American woman to obtain an international pilot's license from the Federation Aeronautique Internationale, died after a plane crashed during rehearsal for an aerial show. Of course, back then, pilots weren't flying for airlines, they were flying as entertainment. And that was a big thing in the 20s. There was no, Pan American Airlines flying people over the world or whatever. It was just, hey, these things fly, let's have fun with them. And a lot of the, and of course there were weapons of war, don't forget that. Mm-hmm. And of course, when they became weapons of war, they became more aerodynamic. Why? Because people could get money from the government for developing airplanes that are more aerodynamic. And pretty soon, the Aero show was born, and that was a big thing. That was a big thing back in the 20s. I imagine, my dad used to tell me about this. When I was a kid, you go to the state fair and there'd be air shows. Every state fair had an air show. Every county fair had an air show. In 1933, American country singer and songwriter Willie Nelson was born, but his birthday was yesterday, just so that makes no sense. Anyway, his birthday was April 29th, but they're telling us it's April 30th. Okay, whatever. We told you all yesterday Willie Nelson's birthday, but Britannica's correcting us, apparently, today. Correcting themselves, by the way, because I'm the one that told you it was his birthday yesterday, using their site. In 1939, the National Broadcasting Company, or NBC, made its first public television broadcast in the United States at the New York World's Fair. So television, basically, turning 86. 1945, German dictator Adolf Hitler and his wife, Eva Braun, committed suicide in a bunker in Berlin. Don't forget they killed their children, too, which is just like, oh, I'm a kid. They gave their kids cyanide. Yeah, Hitler, gutless coward, not brave at all.
Not sure why they killed the children, but you know.
Well, they're Hitler's children.
Fault. They were like, you know what, Dad, you should become a Nazi. And then he was like, you know what, kids, you're right. I'll go do that.
Yeah. And for all we know, Hitler might have had 10 children. We don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Anyway.
Very odd behavior.
Imagine being Hitler's kid, though. That's going to suck if you find out.
I guess in a way it was a mercy, I guess.
Mercy, but again, they could have been put up for adoption.
Of course,
another thing they could have done is they could escape to South America with all the other Nazis. Anyway, 1975, the South Vietnamese capital of Saigon fell to the North Vietnamese troops during the Vietnam War. That was today. So the end of the Vietnam War ending. In 1989, Sergio Leone, Italian director, died at the age of 60. Yeah, Sergio Leone only got to be 60. He popularized the spaghetti western with his hugely successful Dollar trilogy, which include the masterpiece, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, from Sergio Leone, and of course he's featured Mr. Clint Eastwood. If you can name the other two, there's Hang 'em High and For Another $1 More, or something like that. 2013, William Alexander became the king of the Netherlands after his mother, Queen Beatrix, abdicated. She had ascended to the throne 33 years earlier. So, Netherlands got a king this day in 2013. That was 12 years ago.
And now they're going to get another queen. After he...
Yeah, what's her name?
I can't remember. Charlotte, I think? I don't remember.
Charlotte.
They have a princess, basically.
Our featured event.
I think he only has daughters, is what I'm saying, so... Next up is a queen.
In 1789, the day after John Adams was sworn in as vice president, George Washington, the first president of the United States, was inaugurated on this day in the Federal Hall in New York City, addressing his constituency on the proceedings of new and free government. I think they did the vice president first. In case the president dies, they already have a vice president in place, right? I guess. I don't know. Our featured event is one of the Dutch, not one of the Dutch masters, he was French. Edward Manet, French painter, born January 30th in 1832 in Paris, and died April 30th, 1883 in Paris. So, happy anniversary, happy up to his death. It's not his birthday. Our other birthdays today, Carl Friedrich Gauss, German mathematician, born in 1777. Carl the 16th Gustav, King of Sweden, born in 1946. Lars von Trier, Danish filmmaker, born in 1956. Stephen Harper, former Prime Minister of Canada, born in 1959. And Isaiah Thomas, American professional basketball player, born in 1961. Isaiah Thomas turning 64 today. Other days today would be Stop Food Waste Today. That's right. If you got some food, don't just throw it away. Use it for something. Make a hat out of it. I don't know. National Bubble Tea Day. Don't be wasting your bubble tea either. It's National Preparation Day. Wait. National Preparathon Day. I gotta click on that because I don't know what the hell that means. It's National Preparathon Day. It's National Military Brats Day. Which military brats is a tough life. You gotta move every 3 years. That sucks.
Never make any friends.
National Adoptee. Your friends are all long distance friends or former friends or people that just pretend to be your friends or whatever. It's awful. And a lot of times these kids end up with troubled lives. So if you know military brat, make a friend with them. And it's National Adopt a Shelter Pet today. That's right. Don't go to the puppy mills or the pet stores. There's a bunch of dogs. You can get dogs and pets and whatever, cats, dogs, whatever, at the shelter for basically free. You just gotta pay for their shots. And there you are. You get a free dog. So adopt a shelter pet. Don't go to the puppy mills. Those are your days. That's everything for today. Our mispronunciations, our spins of the wheel, our bad puns, all that crap we did today. Hold on a second. I'm going to figure out what National Preparathon Day reminds us that crisis happens suddenly and being prepared needs to happen now, not later. Well, our Doomsday Preppers know all about that, right? So it's your day, Doomsday Preppers. Hey, Doomsday Preppers, it's your day. Anyway, those are your days, your idiotic situations, your weird stuff for Wednesday, April 30th, 2025 on Before Bubble Tea.
Woo, bubble tea, my favorite drink. Of course. What do people say about bubble tea? They say life is like a cup of bubble tea, sweet, exciting, and full of surprises. I don't know if you've ever had bubble tea. It's really good.
Wow.
I love tapioca. And, sponsored by Bubble Tea. Looking for sponsorships. I'll drink bubble tea all day long. I will gain 50 pounds drinking bubble tea, okay? Actually, there was a story once of a girl who drank too much bubble tea that she had tapioca balls all inside of her. She was drinking like 5 a day or something. And her stomach just couldn't digest all that tapioca.
Kaboom.
So, be careful with bubble tea. Don't drink too much. Also, the sugar that you can get in there, too. But that's our stories for today. It's International Jazz Day. The United Nations is celebrating jazz today. In 2025 edition of the International Jazz Day, organized by UNESCO and the Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz, is being celebrated today on the 30th of April in more than 190 countries. The global host for this year's celebration is, of course, Abu Dhabi, who's having their cultural summit, or just finished, I guess. They just finished their cultural summit. And make sure you listen to some jazz today. Whether it's old artists or legends like Jeremy Irons. We've got Danilo Perez, Kenny Barron, John Beasley, Abu, D.D. Bridgewater, Diane Reeves, Virashari Vengolpa. It's like all over the world. So many different jazz artists and collective global stars of the human jazz experience. Okay.
You can smoke your jazz cigarettes.
Oh, right. Yeah. Don't forget to smoke your jazz cigarettes. I cannot get this video to exist. That was my favorite thing to learn, I think, this year so far.
What's it?
The jazz cigarettes thing, the different words for things.
Oh, okay.
So this has been Allison from the Netherlands and Roger from the West Coast, the East Coast of the U.S. As we finish off another wacky and weird Wednesday here on Before Coffee. We will see you tomorrow for our Thursdays 13. We'll come up with a list of 13 things. It's a surprise, so make sure you're subscribed and have those notifications on so you know when we go live, so you can see this list we're coming up with tomorrow. And here is our pickleball mic drop moment.
This is Devin with Quiet Play Paddles. We want to introduce us to the market. We are a
This is from PickleCon 24. PickleCon.
We manufacture for Lockheed Martin.
I love how they already have conferences and
we're
stuff
using
for
the same
this.
materials in our paddles. Everybody knows what a T700 is, but our paddles are actually made with T1100, so it's stiffer and stronger. For instance, this paddle right here is a carbon Kevlar. It's actually a T1100 paddle with a hybrid carbon Kevlar skin. This paddle here is a paddle we're doing for the breast awareness. It is
Ooh,
a fiberglass
nice. It's always nice
paddle.
to raise money for breast awareness.
You get good control, spin.
I'm very aware of breasts all the time myself.
Approves. This here is a paddle that is made with a solid
I think you probably
core.
meant to say breast cancer awareness, but all I heard was breast awareness.
Like a tennis racket.
I'm aware of breast.
This is great. Gives you great potential to hit all the corners.
Quite aware.
It seems like the ball kind of holds onto it because of the surface.
They made all these fancy little paddle boards.
This paddle here is a paddle that we manufacture with the same material that we make rocket parts out of. This is a T1100 carbon fiber paddle as well. We also do logo paddles, which are these here. We do
so it doesn't burn up in
Special
re-entry.
Olympics in Florida. We covered every Special
Look at that. They got a cute little pickleball mascot.
So we give them free paddles.
Oh, yeah.
We do other logos, paddles for Disney.
Look, the passive aggressive.
Well. If you'd like more information, please reach out to us. The email address is quietplaypaddles.com.
Yeah, make sure to email this guy if you want to be quiet.
And you can also get on my website.
Are your neighbors annoying you by complaining about how loud you are?
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.